What's up, guys? We back with another video today. We're talking about 808s. Now, if you're a producer and your 808s aren't knocking like they're supposed to, you come to the right place, because I'm going to tell you exactly how I process my 808s to make them sound thick, clean, punchy, fat, not muddy, and just all the best things you want in your 808s. So without further ado, let's get into the video. What's up, guys? Heretics here. First, I wanted to talk about synths versus samples, the debate, whether you use synths or samples for 808s. I mean, I've used both. I would say I prefer synths a lot more just because of the flexibility that they give you. You can do so much more with them. You can play with the decay and the release times, and you can, you know, make them sound different and do pitch bends and a bunch of wild stuff that is just really hard to do with samples. And I mean, I got nothing against samples. If you like samples and you like the way they sound, then go ahead and use them. And if you process them like I'm going to show you in this video, they're going to sound great regardless. But in this video, you'll see why I prefer synths to 808 one-shots. So first of all, I'm going to start out with high passing everything, right? So like 808s, you want to have them be the only thing down there in the 100 hertz, 150 hertz range. You don't want to have anything else down there competing for space, right? You want to let it have its own space in the mix. So what I did in this project and in every other project, well, let me just play the beat real quick so you guys can get a feel of the vibe. So that's kind of the vibe. It's like a Bryson Tiller R&B trap soul vibe. So what I've done in this track and what I do in every track, first and foremost when it comes to the 808s, is cut everything below 100 hertz and pretty much everything except the 808, right? So snare, hats, you can even go up to 500 because you don't really need anything below that, and like hats, percussion, shakers, etc. So high passed, high passed, high passed, high passed 100, and the synths, same. High passed at 100, everything's high passed at 100. This is because it'll make your 808 sound much cleaner if there's nothing else down there. So definitely start out by doing that. And then the next thing that I do is sidechain it to the kick, right? So this will make sure that when the kick hits, it's not getting muddy, because the kick and the bass can compete with each other. They're in the same frequency range, right? So you wanna make sure that your kick can still be heard and can still knock above the bass. So you're ducking the bass every time the kick hits, basically. So I've done that on all the bass instruments. I have sidechain to the kick. Only doing about like 1, 2, 3 dB gain reduction, so you don't need that much, but I'm gonna just play it unsidechained and then sidechain so you guys can like hear what it's doing. Sidechain. So you can see it's doing like 2 dB gain reduction, not that much. This is my settings that I use. 3:1, attack 10 milliseconds, release on auto, because I just feel like that gives the best like pump effect. I think your compressor can do this no matter what DAW you're in. It might look a little bit different, but it's the same principle that you can do this in pretty much any DAW. So that, as you might have been able to hear or might not have, it allowed the kick to knock a little bit harder and still be heard over the bass. The next thing is we're gonna add some saturation and distortion, right? So you gotta think about when you're producing, right? Like, not everyone's gonna be listening in banging sound systems or in their car all the time. Like a lot of people are gonna be listening on shitty smartphone speakers and laptop speakers and earbuds. So you need to make sure that your 808 can be heard even on these shitty sound systems. And saturation and distortion is gonna help you do that. It's gonna basically excite those upper frequencies in the 808s, the harmonics, and get it so you can hear the 808s somewhat even on a smartphone speaker per se, with not a lot of low end. So what I like to do for that is I go with FabFilter Saturn. It's a great saturation plugin. You can use any saturation plugin you want to, but just make sure that when you do the saturation, right? So a lot of the saturation plugins have input gain, and they increase the input gain on a lot of these presets. Make sure you're doing the requisite output gain, right? So you're basically making it a net zero change in gain, because psychologically when you put something on and you hear that it's louder, you're gonna automatically think it's better, because that's just how human psychology works. So you want to make sure that you're actually getting an accurate representation of the sound and not just increase in volume. So that's why you make sure that the output gain is balanced with the input gain. I'll do a little A/B with this too, so you guys can hear. I'll go ahead and show you what the saturation is doing here. That was without, and this is with. So it's definitely subtle. You might not be able to hear it. You can definitely hear it when you're listening on like smartphone speakers and stuff. If the producer didn't take the time to saturate and distort and add those higher frequencies into the signal, then the 808's just gonna disappear from the mix on those, less than ideal speaker systems, and you don't want that. So definitely keep that in mind. Another step to this is if you really want to go next level, which I do this in some songs, depending on whether the song calls for it or not, but I actually put a whole nother layer of the 808 on top of it, which is just distortion and all just high end, and blend it in with the original 808. So right here I have just the basic 808, and then on top of it a distortion layer. So I'll show you what both of them sound like individually. So as you can see, they both sound a little bit weird when they're not together, but this 808 is just handling the low end and this is handling the high end. So you can kind of I took a different 808 and just took out all the low end under 200 hertz and just distorted the shit out of it to make it have that character, have that vibe, and then I just kind of blended it in. So you can blend it in to taste however you want. Like this is without the top layer. Right, so I would just blend it in until you can kind of hear it. Definitely don't go overboard with it because it's really easy to do that, but blend it in until you can hear the difference and then back off a little bit. That's what I always say. So that's a really good way to add the upper harmonics to your 808 and have that flexibility to add those textures while keeping everything else relatively the same. And then next thing that I always do is, and you guys are gonna hear this difference for sure, is on the main 808 sub, I mono the bass below 150 hertz. You can, if you don't have Ableton, I'm sure your DAW has a plugin that has this capability. You might just have to find it, but definitely your DAW has this 100% in the stock. So what I did is just mono the bass below 150 hertz, and I'll turn it on and off so you can hear the difference. So what it does is it basically tightens up that low end, just has it completely right down the middle, no stereo information below whatsoever, because you don't really need it. Honestly, for 808s, like that's kind of what this whole upper layer is for. Like I leave this stereo, so those upper harmonics have some bit of width to them, but the main 808, just keep it straight down the middle so it's just tight and clean. That's how you get the cleanest overall signal, in my opinion. You have so much more control with these two different 808s combined than with just one. So would definitely highly recommend that you do it like this. Also, like I was talking about at the beginning of the video with the synths for samples, right? I mean, like, let me just show you guys the amount of automation that's going on with these pitch bends, right? Like, good luck doing this with the sample, bruh. Good fucking luck. Like I said, it just gives you so much more flexibility and the ability to just make it your own. You know, that's why I prefer the synths over the samples. But like I said, if you process it like this, it'll sound great regardless. And then the final thing that I do, and this is the one thing that I think will take your production to the next level. If you don't remember anything from this video, remember this, okay? For the main sub bass, I'm gonna limit it, but only anything below 150 hertz, right? So I'm limiting the sub, just the sub frequencies, 150 hertz and below. Everything else above 150 hertz, I'm not touching it. So I got this like multi-pass, basically like a multi-band compressor slash limiter. You can use any type of multi-band compressor. You can even use your stock one, but just put a band at 150 hertz and below, and then just, if it's a multi-band compressor, just turn up the ratio to like infinity to 1, or like as high as it goes, and then you basically have a limiter. And then limit the sub bass and get the threshold. Try to get like 2 to 3 dB of gain reduction going on. As you can see, it's really tightening up that low end. So I'll do it on and off, A/B test with you guys. So if you guys were ever wondering how you know the pros get that thick fat 808 sound without it sounding too crazy and like just muddy and in your face, that's how they do it. It's limiting the sub frequencies so that they get it like just nice and tight and compressed and compact and clean. Yeah, that'll help you guys out a lot, I think. So try that out. And also, you guys might have noticed that there's 2 basses going on in this section right here. And you might be wondering how they're not clashing. It's because, so you have this verse bass and then it goes in and the 808s come in on top of it. The reason they're not clashing is because I have this EQ, right, that's cutting out everything below 100, but it's automated to only turn on during the section when the 808 subs come in. So I'll show you what it looks like. See, over here it's off, but over here it's on. So obviously without that, it would be way too muddy down in that sub range. So when these 808s come in, I have to have it turn off so that they can all keep going and still sound clean. So I'll show you what it sounds like. Goes back to normal. So that's about it for you guys. I hope you guys got a lot from this video, got a lot of good tips. I don't want to hear any more muddy, dirty 808s anymore, because now you guys have all the tools you need to make some clean, tight 808 sounds in your next track. So if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing. And if you want to look at some more helpful videos, check out my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.